Hey,
Hello.
Jason, how you
How you
doing,
guys?
buddy?
I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
We are good. We are good. I'm good.
Rhoda,
Oh,
how
what's
about yourself?
Okay, making a lot of progress walking without the cane now.
Oh, that's good. Is that part of your daily routine now? Getting out of the house?
Oh, definitely.
How to beat quarantine?
Yeah, I try to get out of the house every day a little bit. Today I have actually a face-to-face business appointment, so hopefully that's going to turn out well.
That's good. How is it in
so?
Indianapolis? Are things starting to get back to normal, or is it
Not really.
tepid?
We just mandated masks.
Mm-hmm. Us too in Franklin County and Columbus.
Yeah, we're doing the best we can, and all of us are stroking along. So we'll just see how this thing goes, Jason. So, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
What
what
are
are
you
you gonna
planning
do?
to do?
Just wear a mask, contribute to the slow, and keep on keeping on. That's all you can do, right? Keith, I
Yeah,
love your virtual background. It's so cozy.
is that right?
Yeah.
That's better than my real one.
Mine is real. It's funny.
I need to get a better one. I've got this blank wall behind me. It's like the only blank wall in my house, and it's the one I show people every day.
Yeah, so yeah, it works. It works. Yeah, these virtual meetings are very interesting. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm getting comfortable with them. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm not. They used to offend me. Now I'm kind of like, do we really do we really need to meet? I
Right.
don't know. I don't know. Life is interesting.
Hi, John. I haven't been seeing you at the Chris Borja meetings, Jason.
Oh yeah, I haven't been for a little while. I got to start getting back into them. I just have been, I've been, I love the Chris Borja meetings, but I have been bouncing around a little bit trying to meet some new people. So actually recently I've done a lot of networking, very specifically like within senior living. So I've been meeting a lot of people in the senior living industry. So, hi John,
Hey, good morning.
how you doing?
Okay, yourself?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me today.
Are you
Yeah.
golfing today, John?
No, just hat day Thursday. That's all.
Can't believe it's already Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm thrilled about it.
Yeah, good, good. Okay.
Jason, you're in Columbus, Ohio, is that right?
That's right. Yep,
Okay,
Columbus, Ohio.
cool. Well, nice. I lived there for a number of years.
Oh, really? What
Yeah.
part? What part of town did you live in?
Well, lastly, I was in the Brewery District in German Village.
Yeah, that's where I am right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I love it down here. My girlfriend and I live in a condo. It's been great to us. We love it. I lived
Nice.
in the short north beforehand, and
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to be in German Village. I love it. It's just so cute and nice and
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Good for you. Yeah, I was on Beck Street and then I was at Liberty Place Apartments,
Oh yeah. Okay.
Leslie.
Yeah, my girlfriend's cousin lives at Liberty Place.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, John.
Hi, Keith.
Hey, what's up, buddy? Hey, Alex. I see you're here.
Yep,
You made it. We
I
got a
did.
phone caller. Looks like probably Tony. Give people a minute or two, and then we'll just start this thing up. Good to see you guys. Haven't seen you guys in a couple of weeks. You're all still alive, so that's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, you're all still alive, so what do you want, right?
That's right.
Yeah, what do you want? Sorry about that, dude. We made it through, and I don't know, between face masks and flip flops, I don't know what's going on. It's amazing. It's amazing. So we'll have a complete discussion on this issue of rights and masks and things like that. That this has been fascinating to me uh, as this process is reeling out, as we give couple more people. Hey, who joined us by phone? Because there's no name. Hey, Tony, I thought that was you, buddy. So yeah, we gotta. I know we don't do politics, but I tell you, we gotta at one time have just a civil discussion about human beings in America. It's fascinating to me.
We could talk about quote masks, which you really mean is face coverings.
Right.
And I will tell you that the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health is doing testing of face coverings right now.
Right.
They're doing a study, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. I've done my work on them.
Yeah.
They're great for preventing droplets, and so if you're sick and coughing, great. If not, they're useless. Yeah.
No. And you know what, Tony? I don't doubt that unless you're the one person that's spreading droplets. So here's what I tell everybody: raise your hand if you want to get that transfer. Raise your hand. I don't get anybody raising their hand, so we'll talk about that. But it's just kind of interesting to me. So let's get this thing moving. Hey, good to see you guys. Haven't seen you guys in a couple of weeks. Let's go around the circle here. I'm gonna call you by name by the way I see you on my screen. So let me start with Rhoda again. Rhoda, if you introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, everyone. Happy that you're here. And I am owner of Say It For You. And we are starting to get nibbles of people who are ready to start back and tell their story. So things are beginning to open up. One of my long-time clients has actually sold her practice, and today we're meeting with the new owner to continue working with her. So it's going to be a very, very interesting transition. So feeling optimistic, particularly since I feel I was very lucky with the surgery, with the hip replacement surgery, and doing very, very well. So the scar is almost totally faded. I'm walking around. I'm grateful for the reprieve from all the pain and complaints. So that part is very good. I was able to have a fender bender accident in front of my son's 21st Amendment store, where someone who was parked backed out right into my rear fender. So now I have to deal with all the thing is so tiny, but the aftermath of the red tape is so enormous that it's just ridiculous. So working on that, but feeling pretty good about life in general and grateful for where we are.
And I'm next in my pictures here. Keith Ram, First Quality Printing. I guess my nickname is Zoom CBN Zoom Admin. I guess that's what it is. And much like Rhoda, I'm getting more than a few nibbles of people that want to start projects back up. But since I still serve primarily an office-based environment, and oddly enough, significant portions of offices have not reopened. And those that are reopening are opening with staggered situations. So the demand curve for some of my basic products is just changing and down. It's just the way it's going to be. But it's really interesting to watch how these bigger organizations, one of them one of my largest clients, the Indianapolis airport, for various reasons, that they are down. And so their demand for some of the products that I deliver to them and service them for is way, way, way down. I don't know if any of you have done any airport travel, but if you have, it's literally a ghost town at an airport now. Not sure how long that business model can survive, but we'll see how it goes. Jason, I'll let you introduce yourself last. John, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Yes, hi, good morning. John Vandersall, residential real estate agent with FC Tucker. here in Indianapolis. And just for I'll share in a minute about our industry, I'll do the same. Still low inventory, not enough homes for sale. I have one buyer, he's going to put an offer on a short sale property. So I did research as to how many other homes are out there in that price range for what he's looking at. It's a, again, distressed property, but I was just curious. So I looked at 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a garage, 140 to $160,000 in Indianapolis. There's only nine for sale.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's, I told my client, like others, and we see it every day, it's gonna be a multiple offer situation, and it's gonna go over asking. So
Oh, wow. Wow.
that's what we're experiencing. Yeah.
Hey, Alex, I see you.
Yep.
Just a couple of minutes here. Alex likes to keep it short, but we have time today, Alex.
My name's Alex Gray. I own a company called Opine Interactive, and we do website and email hosting. I also do spend a large part of my time now on investing in alternative, what I call alternative equities, very thinly traded. And as far as that industry, stock market's going crazy. It's not good for every stock, but if you're in tech, you're in good shape.
Hey, Tony, we can't see you, but you know, we missed the head, but if you'll just give us a little background, we'd appreciate that.
Oh, that's all right. I got a face for radio, so probably better off without the face.
I did not say that.
You didn't have to. You implied it.
I'm not getting sued, buddy.
Yeah. So I'm Tony Havix with PH2. We do environmental health and safety consulting and forensic engineering. All the businesses have been down in general, even the forensic side, on the insurance side of the claims. Although I've had 2 lawsuits that were put on hold and are now got started about a week and a half ago. So I'm busy with those, a couple paint failure cases, and then I've got pharmaceutical, occupational exposure stuff. I've got some other work in looking at buildings, warehouses that aren't being used, and how to avoid creating condensation in them, but and not run the HVAC. So I've been running a bunch of calculations and designing control systems for some warehouses for a large company. I'm trying to figure out how we can not create mold inside of those warehouses while they're not really being used. So it's been, a lot of companies are down to probably 30-40% of what they were before this whole thing started. A couple exceptions to that are companies that I know of that have very large projects, and those projects are not stopping for COVID-19. They're continuing on. And so a couple of the really big ones on the environmental side of things are still going on because they pretty much have to go on.
Not a problem. Hey, and I'll do just a quick intro on Jason. He'll be our speaker, so I'll let him introduce himself. But Jason Abady, and if I get that last name wrong, Jason, just straighten me out later on.
Yeah.
He'll be talking to us about an area I think that we, at least me, need to have a little bit more awareness on, and that's that issue of Alzheimer. Especially, I've been researching it from the economics of it. It's expensive. So I'll let Jason do his own thing there while we do all our preamble here. Anybody got any news about business other than a couple of minutes that we talked about? Anything new or interesting about business? If we don't, Jason's gonna start early here.
The interest rates went down again yesterday.
Really? What is it now?
Didn't hear. I mean, in the 2s, you can be in the 2s for a 30-year.
Oh my
For
goodness.
30?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well,
so good time to buy,
yeah.
good time to sell.
Why did this happen when I needed it?
That is, the flip side of that is, as a conservative investor, it's tough to get a return, man. It's tough to get a return when 30-year mortgages are going under 3.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a conservative investor and don't believe in the stock market and don't believe in equities, that's your personal right. to find a fair return is going to be really, really, really tough, since a lot of mortgage-based asset investment decisions are based on mortgage-based assets with 3% return. Wow, I think that's kind of interesting, John. 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So John, my daughter closed on a house last week, and we helped her move in over the weekend down in Chattanooga, and her interest rate was just slightly over 3.
Yeah.
And they were multiple bids on the house as well.
Yep.
Wow.
John, do you have any very strong contacts with mortgage brokers?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm interested in talking to you about that, so contact me separately.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I've been getting all kinds of scam calls, and my friends tell me the same thing. Apparently, they're preying on seniors. So yesterday was the cake. This guy calls up with a heavy foreign accent, and he says, "Did you order an iPhone on Amazon for $1,137?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, then we need to go on your computer and file a complaint." So luckily I realized this is not something I should do.
Mm-hmm.
And I hung up and called Bill Perdue, our former member here that is my techie guy. And he said, "I'm not prejudiced, but if he has a foreign accent, hang up."
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I've had 3 phone calls from IPL. Jason, that's our power company here. They don't call people. And I was supposed to immediately call them and because they were going to come out right now and cut my power off if I didn't return that phone call right now. Well, that's not how IPL works. Having worked with IPL as a client, first off, they pay slow, but they don't rush out and cut you off that day, that hour. Them guys are out there smoking cigarettes. They're not rushing to do nothing. So that's your first dead giveaway. Somebody calls and says, especially from a utility or an organization, "Mother ain't in no rush to get to your house." So you probably got at least a couple of hours. So, but yeah, I had at least 3 phone calls about that. And one time I told them, like, "I work for the federal government. Let me call you back." Click on. It was really an interesting thing. And I think, to Rhoda's point, they do try to prey on the elderly and the uneducated. And just be aware, just be self-aware. That's it's crazy. It's nuts.
Do you think there's an uptick because of the pandemic? Do you think those are tied, or do you think it's scamming season?
Target rich environment, right? More people home. Sharks go fishing in the water where they can bite, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, Keith, but a lot of people have not been able to make their payments. So statistically, they're more likely to get somebody who's had an issue.
Yeah, and particularly if you're unsophisticated and you're behind and you have a fear of this process, the government, etc. Put a tag on it, and then somebody calls you and you start panicking. It's really sad that there's a world like that, but there is a world like that, and you just have to protect yourself. So, anybody else got anything else? Alex, man, talk to me about some investments, man. How do you like this market? As a personal investor with money in the market, I hate to say this, but I like it. I like it. You're muted. Muted.
I say, hey, Keith, you know what I predict? I predict that the healthcare insurance companies are going to make bukus of money this year and have to give some back. Because nobody's doing elective surgery. They're not paying out on anything.
We'll see about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And if you're in, like I said, if you're in tech, if you're in Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, you're hitting home runs right now, period. Now, they're way overpriced. If you're in the stay-at-home stock, Zoom, Teladoc, all these, again, way overpriced. At some point, they can't sustain these gains. But there's still a lot of opportunities out there. But the market as a whole, I think, just because there's so many unknowns right now, I'm not sure anybody really knows if it's overpriced or not. I mean, I think it's a little high. It came back too quick, but who knows? You know, if this thing dies out, it's cheap. You know, seriously, if we find out as more people are reporting cases, and these cases are not fatal, and by fall the virus starts to weaken itself, which does happen at times, you know, it's cheap then. To be honest, it'd go to 30 easy.
Yeah. You know, we had this discussion earlier in this on our Zoom meetings, and I said back then I didn't think this was going to be a long L non-recovery. I thought it was going to be a V, and I'm sticking by my guns. I believe it's going to be a V. It, you know, went down like a rocket. I think we can see that it's coming back pretty aggressively. And for us as smaller businesses, you know, we have to ride those sharks. When Indianapolis Airport is shut down, or when a big insurance company is shut down, or the people that Tony worked with, the quicker they can come back, the quicker we'll come back. You know, John's in a hot market, but even then, it's not enough inventory out there. And the quicker that people can start having comfort and belief in the process, then more inventory will open up. But I'd probably be scared. Like, I'm scared to put my house on the market because I want to make sure I have a job for my next house. Not that I'm worried about selling this house. I'm worried about, like, I'll move, and a month and a half from now, I get laid off by some XYZ situation. So we can rant and rave about that forever. It's about that time. Jason, it's on you, buddy. Give yourself a little intro here, and let's talk about losing my mind, which I'm doing right now.
All right. Can I share my screen? I've got a little presentation.
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. Awesome. Oh, it says it's disabled. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, let me make sure it's me.
All right.
Well, you're not listed as disabled.
Let me try again. Hold on.
Well, it won't matter. Let me make you a co-host real quick. And it shouldn't be disabled now. Does it still say disabled?
Nope, we're good.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Woo, there we go. You got a pro for today. I've done this a few times before. So
It's perfect.
oh yeah, brand. I'm not allowed to, go out in public without being branded. Like we've got to stay on the color scheme and everything. So, but although I do have like a nice presentation set up, please jump in at any time, ask questions at any time, whatever you want. Interrupt me, ask questions, get involved, make this interactive. I do not want to talk at you. I want to talk with you. So jump in at any time. But yeah, I'm going to talk just a little bit about my work with the Alzheimer's Association. I'll start a little bit with Alzheimer's disease, tell you a little bit about my family, and then end with some information about the actual Alzheimer's Association. So this is my grandpa, and he's the reason that I'm involved with the Alzheimer's Association. He's there with my grandma. He is a leader. He's a small business owner. He's a veteran of the Navy. He is the patriarch of our family, but he also couldn't tell you what he had for lunch yesterday, and he probably couldn't tell you my name because he is going on year 6 of his journey with Alzheimer's disease. So what is Alzheimer's? Just the very basic. Who thinks they have an idea? Anybody jump in, tell me what's Alzheimer's disease? We all kind of have a general idea. Rhoda, I see you talking, but you're on mute.
You got to unmute yourself, Rhoda.
Brain passages are coated with a substance that prevents the neurons from transmitting.
What? Yeah. that was a lot more in depth than I was looking for, but absolutely, yeah, that's exactly it.
Rhoda's a member of Mensa, right?
Yeah, I thought I was going to get a surface level, like, oh, memory loss. No, Rhoda hit the nail right on the head. Yeah, basically, your proteins build up in your brain and prevent your brain from communicating with the rest of your body properly. So it is a loss of cognitive function ultimately that interferes with your daily life. So a lot of times when it's portrayed in the media, it's just as memory loss. But like Rhoda said, it literally prevents your brain from functioning properly. So not only is it memory, but you can have changes in language, behavior, personality, eyesight, all these other things that your brain controls, and eventually with your normal body functions that your brain is no longer going to be able to control. So whereas somebody with normal cognitive function might forget their lunch at home or lose their keys, we've all done that kind of stuff. Somebody with Alzheimer's might forget that they just asked you the same question 3 times in a row. Like my grandpa, when we're on the phone, his go-to question, because he's always trying to put on a brave face, is, so where are you living these days? 2 or 3 times every time we're on the phone together. Whereas somebody with normal cognitive function will maybe get lost driving around town. Somebody with Alzheimer's could be disoriented and confused in their own home or in a familiar place. We always say, if you walk into a room and you forget why you're there, that's normal aging. If you walk into the bathroom and you can't find the microwave, call your doctor. Whereas somebody with normal cognitive function might over time have their eyesight deteriorate. Somebody with Alzheimer's might have very specific problems with vision, like trouble with reading, seeing colors, or judging distance. That's one of the reasons that persons with Alzheimer's and dementia shouldn't be driving. It's not just that they might not find their way around, it's that they will have a lack of depth perception as well. And while somebody with normal cognitive function might sometimes be tired or cranky, like we all are on a normal basis, somebody with Alzheimer's might just completely withdraw from social interaction because their brain is not sending those same signals that everyone else's brains are normally sending them. So in the United States, there are over 5.7 million Americans that are living with Alzheimer's disease, and somebody does develop this disease every 65 seconds. And unfortunately, it is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. And it is the only cause of death in the top 10 causes of death that has no cure, no way to reverse it, and no way to prevent it. And that's one of the things that makes it extra devastating, is that we've done this research, we're still continuing to work on this research, but ultimately there is no cure. And that's the goal of the Alzheimer's Association, is to find a cure, to find a treatment, so that in the future we can have a world without Alzheimer's disease. So specifically in Indiana, I pulled some facts for you guys, for your state. There are 110,000 people age 65 and older living with Alzheimer's. There are more under the age of 65, but we don't have statistics on that. And if you develop this disease before age 65, it would be considered early onset. And that is more closely tied to genetics. Whereas if it's over age 65, it's just tied to aging. Keith, did you have a question?
Yeah, this is when I always try to do the background speakers, etc. That $981 million. I didn't know Indiana's. That's $1 billion a year devoted to just the state of Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's like real money.
Oh yeah, and in Ohio, it's about $3.2 billion. And currently, we for every $1 that the federal government spends on research, we spend 125 Medicaid or Medicare dollars caring for Alzheimer's. So if we don't, figure something out, if we don't, flip this thing, we're going to bankrupt ourselves taking care of this disease and taking care of people with this disease. So that's another reason I kind of tend to think of things from that financial aspect or from that business aspect. And I'm thinking, well, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of, or whatever, whatever that saying is. I forget it. But I'm thinking we're not doing enough to find the cure right now because we're just treating it. So, but yeah, $981 million in Medicare, and that's just for Indiana. So there are a lot of people that are fighting this disease.
So given the population distribution in Japan, what are the numbers over there? Are they comparable?
I have no clue. I wish, let me write that one down so I can do that research, because I know they have a aging population, but I do not know their statistics on Alzheimer's. But I'm sure we can look that up. I'm not sure if we keep those stats on it, but I know they're out there.
Wow.
So ultimately, this is a pretty devastating disease. There are a lot of people that have been touched by it. And, you know, for some people, it hits them at the, very end of their life, and maybe they fight it for 1 or 2 years. For others, like my grandpa, get diagnosed at age 76, and he's on his 6th year of it right now. For others, like my friend Jerry, her mother was diagnosed at age 55, and she lived with it for 20 years. So all of these people are falling in the same bucket. And while we predominantly think of this as an aging disease, or a disease of, at the very end of life, it can hit as young as your 40s, your 50s, but predominantly it hits after age 65. And because of this is why the Alzheimer's Association exists. It's our mission to eliminate Alzheimer's disease and basically help everybody that currently has it. So my job at the Alzheimer's Association is to get out into the community and spread awareness and let people know all that I know about Alzheimer's disease. And if they need our help, I'm going to get them our help. I'm going to give them our services, our programs, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. Everyone can benefit from just knowing more about the disease and being able to be on the lookout for it with a family member. Or on the reverse, if they've been touched by this disease and they want to find a way to give back and help, then people can come and join our walks or sponsor our fundraising events and other things like that to help fuel our mission to research an end to this disease. So now I'll tell you just a little bit about my story and my backstory and how I ended up here. This is my grandpa here on the right, and my great-grandpa on the left. And my great-grandpa Fiore, he came over from Italy in 1919, and he started our family, and he's the real patriarch of our family. And in the 1990s, he developed Alzheimer's disease. But he was living in a cabin in the woods down in southeast Ohio in the Appalachian Hills, because that's where he wanted to live. He grew up on a mountainside in Italy, 2 miles from the Austrian border. And when he retired, he wanted to live in the woods, on a mountain, in a cabin. That's what he wanted to do. But unfortunately, he had Alzheimer's disease. And my grandpa was running his own small business at the time. It was a place called AudioCraft. And there you go, AudioCraft. And he couldn't always be there to help my great-grandpa. So he got involved with the Alzheimer's Association in Cleveland, where my family's from, to kind of find a way to give back and honor my great-grandpa's memory, even though we couldn't be there to help him directly. So a few of the things that my grandpa did was, at his audiovisual store, AudioCraft, he had a donation program where he would collect stereo equipment, record play. You come buy a top-of-the-line CD player or stereo system. Give me your old record player. I'll give it to somebody in a nursing home who can, listen to their old records on it, because music is very soothing for somebody with Alzheimer's. And also your memory is somewhat regressive, so you will remember things from your childhood a lot more regularly than you'll remember something that happened hours ago. So he wanted to find a way to get people music back in their lives and a way to listen to some of their childhood memories. So that was one way that he gave back. We also decided to participate in the Walk to End Alzheimer's every year. So this is me. My hair was a little bit bigger back then. That was, 2002. So I was a sophomore in high school. And we would go to the zoo every year and do the Walk to End Alzheimer's and raise money to help fund research. And because of families like mine and thousands of other families across the United States, the Alzheimer's Association is the 3rd largest funder of Alzheimer's research in the world. Number 1 is the United States government. Number 2 is the Chinese government. number 3 is the Alzheimer's Association. So we're extremely proud to have been able to do that through things like the Walk to End Alzheimer's. And I just love being involved with that as a kid. But I grew up, I moved on, I went to college, and I became a high school band director. And this was my dream, this was my passion. And there I am right there in the middle with my Shawnee High School marching band in Springfield, Ohio. And I did that for 7 years and I loved it. And part of this was because of my grandpa. When I was in 5th grade, he bought me a trombone so I could join the band. He supported me through college as a music major. And I was very lucky to be able to have, you know, some financial support to get me through school, to truly follow my dream, which was being involved in music, you know, working with young people and being a band director. And I enjoyed it. I loved it. But after 7 years, I kind of turned around and looked back and said, you know, I don't know if I want to do this for 30 more with the pension and all. I don't know if I keep doing this for 2 or 3 more years. I don't know if I'll be able to find my way out. So I decided to look for a career change. And there we are at one of my marching band competitions, my mom and my grandpa. But yeah, I wanted to look for a career change, and that's when the Alzheimer's Association came into the picture. I was literally just perusing a job site, and you know, my grandpa had just recently been diagnosed, and this job popped up, and I went after it full force. I know that I like being in front of a crowd. I like talking to people. I like sharing my knowledge, and I like being passionate about helping people and doing things that matter to me and things that I care about. So it was kind of ironic how it all worked out, or kind of great how it all worked out, because my grandpa had fueled my initial love for music, and he had funded my initial passion for music with support through college and support with, you know, purchasing me a trombone and everything. So I felt kind of bad. You know, you could say flushing it down the toilet, right? I decided to leave my career, right? So I am proud that I'm able to give back to my grandpa and my great grandpa and the rest of my family by working for the Alzheimer's Association and doing something that matters to me and to my family.
Hey, Jason, just a quick question. Given your family's history, have you thought about this process yourself? Because, you know, every family has some kind of medical history. Mine does. And I think about the things that have affected my family, my mother, my father. Obviously, have you thought like, hey, one day this bullet might be in that gun?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I don't think about it as much for myself yet, because, you know, whoever thinks more than 10 years in advance, right? No, come on. But
we're not. We don't worry about 10 years. Let me tell you that right now.
No, but I really have started to think about it more for my parents. You know, my parents are getting to retirement age. My parents are very active with helping my grandpa and my grandma. And yeah, I get concerned about it because right now there is no cure. There's still so much that we don't know. And genetics does play a factor in it. Now, it's not the largest factor. And that's one of the misconceptions about Alzheimer's, is that it is genetic, and it does play a factor. So like what Rhoda was saying earlier with the proteins that build up in your brain that basically prevent your brain from being able to communicate properly. If you have certain genes, those proteins build up earlier and faster. So it's not a guarantee that you'll get Alzheimer's, but it just increases your risk factor, you know, to the nth degree. But there are a ton of other risk factors too, and I actually have started to take some of these things a lot more seriously recently. Your diet plays a big factor. Your heart health plays a big factor. Being active plays a big factor. So a lot of those things that I wasn't able to do when I worked 70, 80 hours a week as a high school band director and was eating fast food and driving an hour and a half every day, those things I have started to take seriously, because I know that those are also some of the things that my grandpa did when he was a small business owner. He worked around the clock. He smoked his pipe every single day. He, drank, had a glass of whiskey every single night. He didn't eat healthy. He never worked out a day in his life. And I don't know if those were the factors or if it was genetics because it was from his father. But those are things that I want to, take into account and do for my own health and for my future health too. So yeah, I definitely have been thinking about it. So let me share just a few things about what the Alzheimer's Association does pretty quickly, because I know we've got to wrap up fairly soon. So, one of our pillars is we want to provide and enhance care and support for anyone that's touched by Alzheimer's or any form of dementia. So that means in our community, we want to provide free resources for anybody that needs it so that they can get the help. Right now, we've talked about this. It's a very expensive disease. We just saw that the Medicaid cost was nearly $1 billion just for the state of Indiana. That doesn't even count private pay. When you're talking about a memory care facility or a long-term care facility, we're talking $4,000, $5,000 a month. So, that's just on the baseline. We're not even talking about the people who have to quit their job to care for their loved one, or people who go part-time to care for their loved one. It can be a very stressful, around-the-clock disease when you are the primary caregiver for a loved one with advanced stages of Alzheimer's. And so that's why we're here. One of the things that we have is a 24-hour helpline people can call. We have over 40 support groups that people can go to for all different types of Alzheimer's or dementia. We have ones that are, local to your community, or as specific as, 30, ages 20 to 30 with a parent with early onset Alzheimer's. We have a specific support group for that, just so that anybody can kind of talk it out and figure it out and work it out. And we also have clinicians on staff that will do in-home visits to kind of help you along with what's going to happen next with your loved one. When can you have the conversation about taking their keys? How can you convince them to go see a doctor when you see the signs and your family member doesn't? All these things to just help move the process along in a non-medical way, but getting you in touch with the right medical. We also promote brain health, of course. Some of these things are through early engagement programs. We have something called Movement for Memory. Like I said, fitness, heart health, those things play a factor. So we promote a senior movement class. We also do Memories in the Making, which is an art class. Challenging your brain is a great way to build some of those neural pathways or rebuild some of those neural pathways that may have been damaged through Alzheimer's. So we do these social engagement classes to kind of get people up and about. And those are all local to the community. I'm not sure what the Indiana chapter does, but I know for our Central Ohio chapter, those are some of our most popular programs with 20, 30 people showing up for each one every week. And then the big one is we want to eliminate Alzheimer's through the advancement of research. And like I said, we're the third largest funder of research in the world for Alzheimer's research. And we have actually had pretty much a hand in almost every research breakthrough over the past 30 or 40 years. One of the big ones was we helped develop something for PET scans so that we can see amyloid, which is one of those proteins that builds up in the brain. And they've been using that same technology for 30 years on pretty much every research project. So things like that help fuel research so that we can finally find a cure. But unfortunately, right now, we don't have a cure, and we don't have a way to prevent it. And there are only some minor treatments. For example, right now, my grandpa is on Ritalin. That is not an Alzheimer's treatment. Ritalin is what you give a 7th grader to pay attention in math class. But it's the only thing that helps them get out of bed and get moving for the day, and without being cranky and defiant to my grandmother. So it's things like that we have to really work on and continue to fuel research, because those breakthroughs have not come yet. And we've pivoted a couple of times. I'm sure many of you have heard, aluminum can cause Alzheimer's. Well, we've believed that for a long time, but now we've debunked that, and we've had to pivot. And now we also are really focusing on amyloid, but there are questions about whether amyloid is really the true cause of Alzheimer's, or if amyloid is just a symptom of Alzheimer's. So we have to continue to fund this research, because right now it is not there, and we have not made those breakthroughs that we need to make in order to make an impact with this disease. The last thing that we do is, and this is pretty recent, is we've been advocating Congress to really push for more federal funding for research. and we've been very successful with it. As you can see, since 2011, we've basically quadrupled our funding, and we're very proud of that, and we're very thankful to the federal government, especially because we feel like we're one of the few people who's getting something done in government right now. And it feels good because it works out perfectly with our color being purple, because now we can go on TV and we can say, whether you're red or you're blue, red and blue go together and they make purple. So help us out. So we love that one. Wow, Keith, you really like that one. At this point, I'm also, of course, I'm a salesman, so I'm here. I got to pitch to you about the Walk to End Alzheimer's. This is a photo from last year's Indianapolis Walk to End Alzheimer's. And to be honest, I'm not 100% sure what the Indianapolis walk is going to look like this year. My gut feeling, and from the indication that we're getting in Central Ohio, is that it's going to be a walk is everywhere. So everyone will gather online and then walk in their own community, on their own street, wearing their purple, showing their pride, and saying, I'm standing up to Alzheimer's, rather than all gathering together. But I don't know. That's just the indication I'm getting from the Ohio chapter. I haven't talked to the Indianapolis chapter. But I do know that the walk date is October 3rd. And the easiest way to get involved is act.alz.org/Indianapolis. One of the great things about our model for the Alzheimer's Association is that the walk is free. Of course, it's a fundraiser. We encourage people to fundraise. We encourage people to sponsor. We encourage people to ask for donations on Facebook, or do a $5 Jeans Day Friday at the office, which maybe, I guess every day is Jeans Day now at the office. But we do that because there are so many people that are touched by this disease. And like we said, if you're spending $5,000 on a long-term care facility for your loved one, I am not going to ask you for a donation to be a part of our community. But if you are able to give a donation, or if you are able to lend your voice to the cause, go to act.alz.org and register for the walk. Get your business involved. Talk about sponsorship, ways to promote your business, and align yourself with our vision of a future without Alzheimer's disease as well. So I'll leave it with that, and I'll open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Jason, I have a question. You mentioned early on that it was the sixth leading cause of death. Can you elaborate on that? Is it an act or an error that the person makes who's diagnosed with Alzheimer's that leads to death, or the disease itself just shut down the body?
It's that. It's the disease itself will shut down the body.
Okay.
So sometimes the cause of death is, so when we say sixth leading cause of death, we're actually talking about physical, like the death certificates. And we believe at the association that number is much higher, because sometimes on the death certificate it will say pneumonia. Okay, well, sometimes that person lives with Alzheimer's for 12 years and their brain has shut their body down enough where they can no longer swallow their food properly. They aspirate food, develop pneumonia, and they'll die from pneumonia. But really, like, it was their brain not being able to process their, speak to their body correctly. So it is the sixth leading cause of death, because your brain basically stops your body from working properly, but it could be even higher because of things like pneumonia and other causes like that.
Jason,
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about the hereditary element.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that a younger person, let's say somebody 40 or 50, who had a parent that had Alzheimer's, could they be tested now so they would know the likelihood of them getting it?
Yes, so there is genetic testing that is possible to look for Alzheimer's, but it is not a guarantee. So what they can do is they can look for the APOE4 gene, and that is the one that produces those amyloid and other proteins faster and earlier that can increase your risk. But it's not a guarantee. There are some people that have the APOE4 gene that never develop Alzheimer's, are completely fine. But there is a genetic test in your 40s and 50s. If you are worried about early onset Alzheimer's, which is the Alzheimer's that develops in your 50s, that is strongly tied to genetics. So if you have a family member that was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in their 50s or very early on in life, that is tied very closely to genes, and you can get a genetic test for that.
Okay, guys, we got about 3 or 4 more minutes. Any other questions for Jason?
Jason, what is the diagnostic procedure for actually determining for sure that that's what it is?
So it is right now it's a PET and MRI, I believe. It used to be that there was just like a physical test, and your doctor would have to pretty much just determine it and say you had Alzheimer's, and then the only way you could truly determine it was with an autopsy. That is no longer the case. We can now do brain scans that can look for those tau and amyloid proteins in your brain, and that's how you can get a diagnosis. You can get a diagnosis of just dementia in general without it, and dementia is just any cognitive function that interferes with daily life. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia, and that Alzheimer's is specifically caused by the amyloid and tau proteins, but there are other things that cause the other forms of dementia, like Lewy body dementia, which is what Robin Williams had, or vascular dementia, which is a lack of blood flow to the brain. But you can get a diagnosis of dementia just by seeing your doctor and taking a few diagnostic tests. But for specifically Alzheimer's, it's a brain scan.
All right. So to follow that up, if I were to look at the current president and the one challenging for president, can you actually look at some of that symptomology that they may be expressing and say they should get tested? So if I, just looking at somebody who you think is exhibiting certain functions that aren't just typical dementia.
I think you could say, let me be gentle about this. No, I think you could say either of them could consult their physician.
Thank you, Jason. And with that, thank you, Jason. That was a very adroit way to respond to that, Tony, with the knife you stuck in somebody.
Hey, it cuts both ways, right? Red and blue make purple.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the only good thing is you stuck it in both sides there, buddy. So you stuck with the purple thing. Hey, just to wrap this thing up real quick. Number one, Jason, thanks a lot. I want to thank Rhoda and John for following up on this, and getting us to speak on that. This is really fascinating to me. You don't know me very well, but I really like data. So when I saw those numbers, it was like $1 billion. That's real money. And as a taxpayer and as a citizen, and the other thing, the collateral issue, which I really wasn't paying that much attention to because I like money, is like 3 to 1. One patient, 300 people. One patient takes 3 people to take care of them. That's the situation that in a family can be really, really challenging. Really challenging. So it was really, really interesting. Anybody got anything else to add before we let Jason and the rest of us go?
Hey Jason, the data on the color issues, where would I go and find additional information to suggest that if you start losing color contrast or color differentiation ability, that would be a sign or symptom?
You would, I would just say go to alz.org and Google it. We have a pretty good search function, and we have a huge research library and tons of articles and information about it on alz.org.
All right, thanks.
All right. Hey, with that, if you guys will just give me a couple of seconds smiling, because I always like to send a happy picture out. This is kind of depressing, Jason. Thank you. I wanted to wake up and be depressed. Thank you very much, Jason.
No, I don't want you to be depressed, just informed, right?
Right. No, I'm informed now. I'm informed. Hey, really good. We don't have a speaker for yet next week. If we don't, like I said, we may just take, we may have to have a purple day. in the next couple of weeks because I am just fascinated by America and our responses in America on both sides of the political spectrum. And we may have to have a purple day because this is just, I don't know. we have lost our minds. So it'll be a real interesting discussion. We'll spend some time on that. And we'll try to keep it civilized, but we'll see how that goes. Other than that, people, if nobody's got anything else, hasta la vista, and we'll try to follow up next week with some kind of a speaker. If not, we'll figure something out.
Cool.
So it was good seeing all you guys. See
Have a
you
good week.
again next week.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
everyone for having me. Bye.
Thanks, Jason.
No problem.